conductor to engineer 8599. We're ready to head back to Byesville. Highball. 599, we're ready to go.
Winding through the fields and rolling hills of eastern Ohio, something very special is taking place. In the Appalachian Valley of Guernsey County, a bit of history and a way of life is being revived by a group of folks who value what once was and what should be again. This is the story of the Buckeye Central Scenic Railroad. A story about iron and steel, restoration and preservation, the past and the present. It is about the people who run this line and those who came before them. What makes this story unique is that it's incomplete. The final chapter has yet to be written.
Welcome to the Buckeye Central Scenic Railroad, folks, Byesville, Ohio Division.
Oh, blue yodeler, just sing your sweet refrain. Jimmy, did you know we was all gonna ride the train?
It is an excursion railroad in eastern Ohio that offers passengers something truly special, the chance to relive history.
And every yodel that you've ever sang.
That's what's special. It's not, you could read a book about a train, you could go ahead and hear people tell you stories until you've ridden it. That's what it's all about.
Jimmy, did you know we was all gonna ride the train?
This is an opportunity to experience traveling by rail through the wonderful Ohio countryside along historic welded steel rails, the way it used to be.
My life, I've been waiting for a train. I clung to every line and every yodel.
It's a chance, if for just a few brief hours, to take a step back into another era. When you come to ride the Buckeye, bring your camera and bring your smile, but most important, bring your imagination. The people who operate this line have a simple mission statement: to preserve, maintain, and operate vintage railroad equipment so this important part of our great American heritage never disappears. This is their story, and this is their train. For years, the Buckeye ran out of Hebron, Ohio, just off the National Road, also known as Old Route 40. In June of 2003, the Buckeye Central's main operation moved east about 50 miles to the small town of Byesville, Ohio. Since that inaugural Byesville run, nothing but good luck came to the Buckeye and her crew. There seemed to be no limits or boundaries to what they could accomplish. But sometimes, well, luck runs out. We'll come to that part of the story a little later on down the tracks. Thousands of riders have traveled to the small town of Byesville and taken this one-hour round-trip excursion.
If you find tomorrow, traveled far.
We are operating approximately 5 miles of trackage from Byesville to Derwin. The ride is an hour. We do go slow. In order to keep an hour ride, we do about 15-mile-an-hour speed.
Visitors can climb aboard the locomotive, have their photo taken with the crew, and experience what it was like living the good old days. They'll show you how it's done, how it gets done, and what it takes to make this a successful operation.
8599. One car, the crossing.
And we have a lot of people who are very, very dedicated, and this is really important. They really get involved into really getting this train on the track and bringing the history back and creating the atmosphere of riding a railroad train.
For the hills of Ohio are my home.
Before the train can depart the station, a few of the crew set out to visually inspect the track, look it over, make sure everything is ready to run A-OK. They make the quick run using an antique track maintenance car.
So what we're doing right now is a rail inspection
for from Byesville to Derwent. It takes, I don't know, 15 minutes to take our run, our 3-mile run. Now the rails look good. Today's a good day. The rails really look good. This is the last part that the train can actually go. Now we're in a little village called Derwent.
Back at the station in downtown Byesville, everything's running right on schedule. The diesel is brought to life, and the big power plant is given the once-over to make sure things are where they're supposed to be. Everything from the running lights to the trucks are checked and rechecked again. The ticket booth is open for business as passengers start arriving for the 1 o'clock run. As you board this train, there's a feeling of revisiting an old friend. The impressions inside the coaches are historic. The atmosphere is friendly and comfortable.
The coaches you're riding are Canadian national coaches. They're kind of famous coaches. You could ride these coaches from Montreal across to Vancouver, British Columbia. Very safe, very quiet, and everybody remarks how smooth they ride on our track. So it's a nice ride.
Better have your ticket because this train is about to leave the station right on time.
Here we go. Put our headlight on, our bell, $85.99. We're ready to go up here. Welcome aboard. Crossing clear.
The diesel creates an impressive rumble as she gathers momentum and starts to make her way south out of town towards the Byesville curve.
Clear on the curve. Clear on the curve. We just left Byesville, station at Byesville, so we'll be on our way to Derwent. It's about a half-hour ride.
All they gave him is orders. Monroe, Virginia, saying, Steve, you're way behind time. This is not 38, but it's old 97. You must put her in dispenser on time.
This engine is a SW1 built in 1948. It is a 600 horsepower, so we have a V6 diesel engine that generates electricity for the traction motors.
Once a familiar sight on railroads everywhere, the Pioneer Model SW1 railroad locomotive, produced by General Motors, has all but vanished into the pages of railroad history books. Created late in the 1930s as America's first successful diesel-electric switch engine, the SW1 has been credited with helping convert the railroads from steam to electric power. Surviving examples like the Buckeye are true reminders of the past. Only a small number of these locomotives continue to survive, and only a select few, including the Buckeye Central's 8599, remain in service today.
Never speak harsh words to your true love and husband. He may leave you and never return.
Up until the early 1930s, a daily passenger train operated over this line. Pulled by a massive steam locomotive, it carried passengers from Cleveland to Marietta, stopping at cities and towns in between.
Pennsylvania ran along this line. B&O, I guess, had trackage rights over it too. So it has a long history.
It had, I believe, at least 2 presidents traveled over it, and maybe 3.
By the early 50s, air travel, improved highways, and America's love affair with the automobile all combined to all but end passenger rail service.
You could run a train almost every hour across America, go from New York to California. But you can't do that anymore. Railroads they're dying. It's a dying breed. And this gives people a chance to experience a part of history from the 1940s and 50s when the passenger trains ruled the rails. And it's a very unique experience.
It's been years since a passenger train has operated through this area. Now, thanks to the Buckeye and the efforts of her crew, the wonderful sights and sounds of rail travel have once again returned to the Guernsey Valley. As number 8599 heads south, her passengers settle back and watch the countryside slowly roll by. If for just a moment you close your eyes and use your senses of hearing, touch, and smell, you can find yourself reliving the golden era of real rail travel. The clanking of metal and the screeching of wheels slicing against the rails below produce a rhythmic, steely sound that is a direct recording of the past.
To live just to labor his whole life away.
As the Buckeye Central rolls on, so does this story. Believe it or not, the very first chapters were written roughly 3 million years ago.
A man will have lust for the lure of the mind.
You see, deep beneath the ground, a precious fossil fuel lie waiting to be found. Black coal.
Where danger.
During the heyday, there were 77 deep mines here in this county served along this railroad.
And the sun.
It was the discovery of coal right here in Guernsey County that brought the railroaders, the tracks, and the coal miners to this region. It was a bustling time. Soon this entire region was flooded with railroaders, coal trains, and coal miners.
1890s, 1900, 1910, there were soon 14 coal mines surrounding this town. This would be considered the coal mine capital of Guernsey County. And this is where the people came to when they got off of the ships at Ellis Island. There were people holding signs that said, "Go to work, Byesville, Ohio. Cheap work, good work." And they went for it, and they came here.
It's dark as a dungeon way down in the mine.
The very same tracks that the Buckeye Central operates on today are an eerie, monumental testament to their hard work and sacrifice. In the early part of the 1900s, the mines were operating at full capacity and generating tons of coal. There were 12 deep mines along this very section of 3.5-mile track the Buckeye rolls over today. At one time, the line was so busy that a northbound coal train would leave Cambridge every 20 minutes. But today, as the Buckeye creeps along, the mines are boarded up, collapsed, and silent. Hard, you can still make out the outlines of roadbeds that supported the tracks which led up to some of the old mine entrances. Now, covered with grass, these mounds of earth are a ghostly reminder of the numerous switches in operation during those early years. Arriving at the end of the line, the Buckeye slows as she reaches the town of Derwent, the halfway point of the trip. When the train comes to a stop, the rollover seats are flipped, and folks reposition themselves for the return journey as a history lesson begins to unfold.
I'm going to tell you some of the stories that my dad told me, what it was like growing up.
It's a lesson about a harsh and grueling existence that at one time breathed life into this very region. Their words and mannerisms come from the heart because it was their ancestors and relatives who labored in the coal mines, the mines that old number 8599 travel past today.
5,000 of them a year die from black lung, where it wouldn't be unusual for several hundred miners in the area to die. And they're all forgotten.
But as time marched on in the valley, so did the coal miners. This hard way of life came to an end in Guernsey Valley. The mines shut down. The small towns became idle. The miners, the railroaders, and their families, along with the coal trains, moved on.
I'm 1,000 miles away from home, just waiting on the train. On a cold, stormy night, not a star was in sight, and the north wind was whistling down the line.
Now for that chapter on bad luck. In the fall of 2004, a powerful hurricane hit the state of Florida. Downgraded to a tropical storm, the weather moved northwest, blanketing eastern Ohio with torrential downpours and widespread flooding. The result was devastating.
You might say we're like an army of ants. We just don't quit. We're not going to give it up because we're one of the very few lines in the state of Ohio, and we're not going to give up this good line just because Mother Nature throws us a curveball once in a while.
But because of the determination of those who continue to give their all to this railroad, the Buckeye was once again back on track.
Here's your ticket. Hold your ticket to Derwin. We're on our way to Derwin.
Today, the Buckeye's 1 hour-long excursion departs from the small town of Byesville, only having to stop in the town of Derwent. But this isn't the end of the line or the story of the Buckeye. Instead, it's the beginning of a vision. Further south, hidden beneath old growth and rust, lies opportunity. You see, there are still more miles of unused rails to travel over, and more stops to be made. This will demand nothing short of hard work from the people who truly believe in their cause. American Electric Power has generously relinquished ownership of this abandoned track to the Buckeye Central. The perfect ending of the story would be for the restoration of these remaining tracks. Should volunteers successfully rework these rails, the new route could let the train operate further south, deeper into the Ohio countryside. But this is a story that is left unfinished, with a final chapter to be written. It's the grand design of this railroad and excitement that can be felt every time the train leaves Byesville. With the dedication of the Buckeye crew, the reliability of metal, steel, and iron, and loyal rail fans from all over, it's a railroad vision that lies just around the next bend.
Conductor to Pier 8599. We're all set to go on back now.
From the great Atlantic Ocean to the wide Pacific shore, from the queen of flowing mountains to the south bells by the shore. She's mighty tall and handsome, and she's known quite well by all. She's a combination of the Wabash Cannonball. Listen to the jingle, the rumble, and the roar as it glides along the woodlands, through the hills and by the shore. With the mighty rush of the engine